Coaster Tycoon was like, I think one of the most influential games of my exposure to this entire digital world. So, you know, I honestly haven't played Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. I know Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. So I'm excited to play Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. And it is so it's so funny to like look at all of this. I don't think I've even revisited Roller Coaster Tycoon since I was, you know, a little kid. And it was before we had internet. So I spent, before I was chronically online, I was chronically on a computer. But yeah, this should be really fun. I also thought it would be fun, since I haven't touched on it in a while. I haven't played any Roller Coaster Tycoon game besides this one, besides 2. So before we jump into Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, I thought it would be cool to watch a documentary about it that I found. I did not pre-watch this, you know, I watched the intro. So we shall see how this goes, but I thought this would be kind of fun. I hope the volume is okay.
Hello and welcome to Greatest Hits, the brand new show from Noclip where we dive into the history of some of your favorite games. And we mean your favorite games. Because the titles we cover on this show are voted on and selected by our patrons. And this episode they've sent us on quite the wild ride.
I have to admit it, when Roller Coaster Tycoon won our first poll, I was pretty surprised. What is it about a theme park management series that resonated with so many people 20 years after its heyday? Well,
I remember that Cam.
The entire point of this show, to not only talk to the people who made these classic games, but to explore their legacy, to figure out what it is about these games we consider classic and what our love for them tells us about video games today.
I remember that roller coaster.
The series has spawned a half-dozen sequels, bunches of expansion packs, and more than a few spiritual successors. But when people
you could customize the color.
Roller Coaster Tycoon, generally they're referring to the first 2 games. These 2 games programmed by a single guy. These days he's pretty hard to find. That is, of course, unless you own a boxed copy of the originals.
Tycoon designer Chris Sawyer left the games industry after the release of the 3rd game, and by modern media standards, he's almost impossible to get a hold of.
I think we did have
to tell the story of this game, we also need to figure out who kept the torch lit since Chris's departure almost 20 years ago.
Atari bought it. They went through a lawsuit.
The community keeping the game alive, and the YouTubers creating brand new Roller Coaster Tycoon fans today.
Why do people so care about Roller Coaster Tycoon? What effect has this series had on the games we play today?
The maze.
Can we get Chris Sawyer to turn on his webcam? A lot of questions, and the clock is ticking. Welcome to Noclip Greatest Hits.
I wonder how Chris Sawyer feels about all this. I wonder if he's like pissed about not getting paid. I've never even heard of this channel before, so this should be really fun. Roller Coaster Tycoon. I think I saw Metal Gear in there. Also, Cat Cam. He's right there. He is right there.
Okay, a brief history lesson for those of you out of the loop. This won't be long, but it's a bit twisty, so please keep your limbs inside the car at all times.
Oh,
the original Roller Coaster Tycoon was first released in 1999.
Let's see. It only took 3 minutes for the first roller coaster.
Sawyer with graphics by Simon Foster and music and sound by veteran composer Alistair Brimble. Chris and Simon had previously worked on Transport Tycoon together, an isometric transport management game set against the backdrop of 20th century expansionism.
Whoa.
The story goes they worked remotely, sending floppy disks through the Royal Mail on a daily basis.
Oh my god, I love it.
The game was a critical and commercial success, and Chris used the profits to take a well-earned break. The Scottish developer travelled around Europe and across the Atlantic to North America.
I gotta shut off my fan real quick.
During his journey and quickly developing a love for riding roller coasters. So when it came time to create his new game, a new idea was on the tip of his tongue. And while the original title of White Knuckle would eventually be dropped in favour of continuing the Tycoon brand, he was true to his vision.
White Knuckle?
Satisfied both the management.
What?
And while the original title of White Knuckle would eventually be dropped in favour of continuing the Tycoon brand, he was true to his vision, creating a game that satisfied both the management pleasures of his transport game and the joyful creativity of designing looping, diving roller coasters. In Roller Coaster Tycoon, you build and manage theme parks, placing rides, paths, concession stands and toilets. And while there are non-roller coaster amusements available, the bulk of the game's creativity comes from making custom roller coasters from a variety of styles. The goal of the game is to attract visitors to the park by creating the most exciting roller coasters possible.
You could change it so many different colors.
The pleasure of Roller Coaster Tycoon comes from the craft of park building, organizing paths, placing rides where you want them, adding flowers.
Okay, that must have been like an expansion pack because I never got to add castle gates.
And flair, and constructing increasingly imaginative coasters.
I think... Oh my god. I kind of want to play this version, honestly. Maybe I'll see if I can find an old crusty file somewhere. But I remember... I spent countless hours on this game, and I think I did try to buy one of the expansion packs, but since we didn't have the internet, it didn't work because I think you had to connect to the internet in order to get access to the key, or like plug your CD-ROM key into whatever website it was, and then, yeah.
The first game sold a staggering 6 million units by the time its sequel came out. RCT2, largely considered to be the pinnacle of the series, added dozens of improvements.
That texture!
Leaning into the creativity of the community to give players more options with rides, buildings, and scenery. By the time it was released in late 2002,
I made some cool
the strategy
rides,
genre was ready to leave 2D. And while Chris Sawyer did do some consultancy work,
oh my god, do you see this?
Handed development over to Frontier Developments for Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. The story gets a little bit messier after that. Don't worry, we'll check in on it later. But what's important now is that you know when people talk about their love for RCT, generally they're talking about those first two games in the series. Written and assembled by Chris Sawyer with timeless graphics by Simon Foster. So what if I told you that despite all the sequels, all the spin-offs and spiritual successors, there are thousands of people today who are still playing those original games?
Oh my god, I would. Oh my god. Okay, I might need to do some like deeper investigating. Here's another thing. You would think Atari getting a hold of a game, you know, Atari, the pioneer of one of the first gaming, one of the first most popular gaming systems out there. I guess thinking back on it though, they did kind of drive themselves into the ground because of lack of innovation. Then Nintendo whooped their butts. But even then, that Atari still existed and then took over this game and then still messed it up. It's like, maybe Atari was just a one-trick pony? I don't know.
And millions watching them. Alright, it's time we checked in on the Roller Coaster Tycoon community, but like any good club, I'm going to need an in. And mine is a Dutch guy with a YouTube channel.
Okay. Is he talking about himself?
Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we will be
the
answering
question
that has plagued many generations of great Roller Coaster Tycoon players. Why do tired guests drown slower than fully energized guests?
What?
Oh, RCT was huge in the Netherlands. When I was a kid, you know, it was like early 2000s, you couldn't go anywhere without people talking about RCT. Everyone had the game. Like,
okay, so everybody had the game. I never. J-Rod, what is up? We're watching a documentary about Roller Coaster Tycoon right now. But this guy he's interviewing is saying, like, back in the day, everybody was playing Roller Coaster Tycoon. Well, guess what? In my small-ass town in the middle of nowhere, I was the only person I knew that played Roller Coaster Tycoon. I could not talk to anybody about it. I could not bond with anybody about it. We also didn't have the internet. It was just me and my little... It was me and my little world, and it was perfect. It was lonely, but it was just... I wouldn't say... I don't know. Perfect is whatever. It's a word. But it was perfect for me. Yeah, I did get lonely because I wanted to bond. A Sims player? Yeah, so my neighbor played Sims. And I had Roller Coaster Tycoon, so I would go over to his house and sit and watch him play, what was it, SimCity on, I think it was, he had Windows 95 system, and then he upgraded to Windows 97. But they both had the same, like, crispy graphics, right? I love those crusty graphics. I don't know. Probably because of the nostalgia. You know, it's in my brain. Did you ever play
I remember my friend's dad burning it onto a different CD for another classmate. I think
it's such a good game.
Why it's popular is that it has an incredibly low entry barrier. I mean, anyone can, who's never played any kind of game like that, can pick it up, and you know, you can then see your Parker. You can plop down it.
Ooh, that's nice. That, I wonder how much stuff I never unlocked. Because, you know, I was a kid. I had no idea what I was doing. Especially, that's kind of what I liked about it, is there's no tutorial, right? Of, like, all the Maxis games from back then on disc. Maxis, is that the company? I've never played a Sims game.
Open it, and then you will get guests. And they will get on it.
That funhouse with the lava lamps? What was that? I never unlocked that. Maxis. Yeah, he had Sims City, and then, I don't know, I'd go over there and he'd play Sims and try to make him do it, and that was always weird, you know, it's the 90s.
And most of them aren't too big, so you can put them in almost any park. And
it used to be the company that made Sims, I think it's all, right, yeah, EA has gobbled everything.
There are a lot of options, so it doesn't get played out very quickly.
Chocolate Coaster.
I get a few comments every now and then, people saying, yeah, I don't even play the game, I just watch the videos. Or people saying, you know, I played this game 15 years ago, and it's interesting
I think I want to
see how it works in depth, even though
I think I want to replay Roller Coaster Tycoon.
I don't play the game anymore. Also, a lot of comments saying people picked up the game again, but also still quite a few people that are actively playing, either that are in the community or that, you know, play on their own and are not necessarily.
We'll see, though.
Hello,
we'll see
everyone,
how.
And
oh my
to
God!
Video. A few days ago, I uploaded a video about why certain mazes are nearly impossible to solve for the guests because of how the pathfinding algorithm works in mazes.
Who is this guy?
If you haven't seen that one yet, you will not really understand this video, so I recommend watching that one first.
But he brought up
this is amazing.
The game I played growing up on my Amiga was Theme Park, which is similar in some ways to Roller Coaster Tycoon. But you hit that threshold pretty quick. Like, the game ends at a certain point. There's not much.
Oh, not with Roller Coaster Tycoon, baby. You know what I remember doing? I remember... Okay, so I'd go over to my grandma's house, and we were always doing things, so I was also outside a lot. But sometimes when it was cold as hell, in the middle of the winter, it's blizzarding, I think I also figured out... I was figuring out how to install and copy the files from my computer onto grandma's computer, you know, as a child. Which, looking back, you know, doing that without the internet.
I mean, your channel is a testament to how limitless it is.
Not
that
bad.
said, you know, almost
I'm
everyone
kidding, obviously.
isn't going to reach that skill cap. And I would not have reached it either if it wasn't for a lot of other people in the community. Yeah, this is so much to do and a very low skill ceiling. And another thing which I think is very important is the graphical style makes it so that you can really easily make something that looks pretty.
You do?
Yeah, for example, you have Planet Coaster, which is kind of sort of...
I have not played Planet Coaster. Have you played Planet Coaster? Okay, so there's actually an article I saw. There's one last person in charge of selling the last floppy disks. It's like the last floppy disk company, and it's one guy.
Like a spiritual successor, especially to Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. But the downside to Planet Coaster is that you need to be better at it to make something decent than you need to be in Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. Because Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, you can plop down a few trees and it just works.
I might have to pick up this game somehow. Roller Toaster Tycoon.
There are many things a game needs to be in order for it to become a classic, but one of the most important things is how it looks. Some games age more gracefully than others, and
I remember the cover of it had bubble letters where you can touch the gold. It's still a system that uses discs, but they're way more robust. It's a security thing in certain servers. Wait, the floppy disks? I would feel like floppy disks would be a security vulnerability. Is that what you mean? I'm gonna move my chat box. You cannot see my chat box right now, but that's fine. Not really floppy anymore. Hard disks? I think that's like the technical term, right?
Thankfully for RCT, there is something timeless about the original.
Oh my god, I missed this game.
There's no better example of this endurance than New Element. For almost 20 years, this website has been highlighting outstanding visual design in custom roller coaster tycoon parks, with accolades handed out to the most beautifully crafted levels. The latest iteration of their community competition is currently running.
Oh my god.
So it's all the more impressive that the graphics for RCT 1 and 2 were created entirely by one person, Simon Foster.
Shout out,
he used
Simon.
3D Studio Max to create thousands of 3D renders, which he would then manually export and send to Chris on rough grids. Once you factored in all the animations, the 4 isometric angles, and the different number of people that may be riding on the coaster, one roller coaster car could take as many as 6,600 unique frames.
What?
It was painstaking work, but it led to a game which looked incredible in its day without adversely impacting performance. This was absolutely crucial as levels in RCT
look at this
could get
guy.
really complex. But with most of the game written in assembly, Chris Sawyer ensured that even at the absolute limit of park sizes, Roller Coaster Tycoon ran well and rarely suffered from computational errors. But even the most tightly written code cannot avoid the passage of time, and for many years the original 2 Roller Coaster Tycoon games were unplayable on modern machines. So how exactly is Marcel playing RCT2 in 2021?
Yes.
I can't imagine making my videos without Open Roller Coaster Tycoon. For example, it's got windowed mode and HD resolutions, which is really useful.
Everybody stop. Everybody stop right now. You stop. You stop this right now. Is that .org? You freaking stop it. You stop right now. Requires the original game files. It can be hassle to get it up and running. Guide you step by step. Okay, so I have to pick up the original files anyway, which I could easily do. Yo, okay, I'm just curious right now. I wonder if there's an old copy, hard copy. No, I need it like in the box original. Oh, I remember that. $6. Is that with the box? $40? Okay. I mean, I can't hate because guess what? Some hardcore fans out there still doing it. You'd like the YouTube channel Let's Game It Out? He takes games to their limit and he did a few. That sounds really fun. Oh. Oh. I'm just looking. I ain't got time to be buying the hard. I don't need a hard copy. What am I doing? Oh, they have a 1-star. Let's get the heck out of here. So there's still... That was the one I think we had. Do you see that? It was like bumpy texture. Like smooth. Oh, look at this. Oh, not a scratch on this beauty. Oh, look at this. So crisp. So fresh. My PC doesn't even have a CD drive. But my laptop does. I'll think about it. Okay, well that was fun. This is awesome. Bookmarking. Those games have a CD key. If I remember, no. You had to physically have the disc. But the disc wasn't specific to each machine, so you can just burn the disc, boop it around. At that time, as a child, I don't think I started burning CDs until I was like 8 or 9.
But other than that, you know, a lot more hotkeys. You can speed up the game for when you, I don't know, need to test a long coaster or you know, have your gas spread out on the bike and only go right around a lot.
You know.
There are just so many quality of life improvements.
I'm so excited.
Way too many to list.
The OG Warcraft.
The original game.
I remember seeing copies of those at Walmart, because we lived in a small town and there weren't many stores, so that's pretty much what you had. It's so weird to think about having lived in a world before the internet. I know it's gonna sound like cliche, boomer, whatever, but it is really weird, you know, like we had no DLC. You just pop it in and figure it out. And I still like to play games like that, honestly. I was playing Burning Crusade last year. I had so much fun with that. Burning Crusade.
The original Roller Coaster Tycoon was written by a single programmer, Chris Sawyer, but the person
Chris Sawyer, shout out.
Roller Coaster Tycoon alive today does so with the help of a global
AOL
team.
Online.
Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 is a free program which...
Do you want to know I am pausing. Do you want to know my AOL name was back in the day for Instant Messenger? It was Whistlin' Bunghole 04. And then my next one, I graduated up. Blue Wing Falcon. That's way better than Whistlin' Bunghole 04. I don't know why I did the things I did. After Whistlin' Bunghole 04, I graduated up to CKY5 Jackass 2 at AOL and Hotmail.com. Yeah. Yeah. It was before there was a Jackass 2. Obviously, anyways. Blue Wing Falcon's so cool.
The original games in
Mine are so dumb.
Modern OSs, including several operating system families the original never supported.
I wish you could play this on Linux, yo. I got a virtual machine. Let's do this.
Which means that we only have about 4 weeks
all in all
to get the interviews locked in to give us enough time to actually edit the episode. So pretty quickly, we've reached out to Chris, at least the company that represents him.
Are you serious?
To try and get an interview. We also have a couple of industry back channels working as well to see if we can contact him that way. But,
I love that.
So far, it's been a couple of weeks. We've heard.
Okay, so he's trying to reach out to Chris Sawyer, and they haven't heard anything back. Yeah, so after AIM, MSN Messenger was kind of coming in, and AIM was still there, but it was very well known that AIM was like the Omegle of the time. It was like pretty risky, you never knew what you were gonna get. But I met one of the most special people in my life through MSN, because a friend who I knew in real life connected us, and we started talking on MSN Messenger. And that, you know, that was before, like, that was considered very weird at the time, right? Her name was Blue Stripe Tiger, so we felt like we had to be friends. That's so cute. Oh my god. I love that. I have met some really cool people online. And I think maybe for people who are more reserved or indifferent sometimes, meeting people online can be a lot easier.
So while our attempts to contact Chris Sawyer were still going unanswered, we decided to
Chris
reach
Sawyer.
out to the only other person who knows the code as well as him. Ted John started Open Roller Coaster Tycoon in 2013, but his passion for the series came much, much earlier.
I mean, I got the first game, Roller Coaster Tycoon. I was probably 7 at the time.
Look at his eyes. He's just stoked.
Games. I think I played Theme Park in the past, but what interested me most about Roller Coaster Tycoon is it didn't feel dumbed down. It seemed quite sophisticated, and the graphics looked really good. They still look good, all pre-rendered, and I really liked the second game as well. In fact, I remember looking at the screenshots before it came out. I also looked at the game manual because that was available before the game was released.
Wow.
So one of the other games I played was Transport Tycoon, which is the previous game.
It's very SimCity vibes, though.
Roller Coaster Tycoon. And I remember I think it was about 2005.
Does anybody remember SimCity? SimCity looked nearly just like this. SimCity, I don't remember which one. I think it was maybe the first one.
I found OpenTDD for the first time and was impressed at what they achieved and how it was the exact same game, but had these new features, had multiplayer of many players.
Oh wow!
You could be the same company, you could work on the same infrastructure, and it ran on every platform operating system you could think of at the time. And I thought,
whoa!
This is great. Roller Coaster Tycoon should have the same thing. We got it working on other platforms.
Oh my god,
like
yes!
And Linux quite early, and then
I was just wondering about Linux.
Quite excited about being able to.
I love Linux. I'm a Linux stan for life.
Maps, with a lot more.
No, not for life, but for now, for sure. And for. Whoa! Did you see the roller coaster underwater?
Improved guest AI, because quite often the guests, they get lost and they complain about being lost, even though your park's got brilliant pathing systems, directions, they got maps. Yeah, they still can't seem to find where they want to go.
Your job is like half game designer, half like game.
I did not expect to be that into this documentary.
Where do you draw the line between like, oh, this is additive, but it doesn't take away from what the original was or is?
Yeah, we're very cautious about adding too many new features.
Integrity.
A lot of people like to request things that make it a bit easier, or
oh my god,
ways, things that
the snails.
Think of it a cheat, I suppose, where it tells you how much you should price the rides and various things like that. And we're not sure whether that should belong in the base game. However, we know that some people do want that, and to sort of please everyone, we've decided, well, why don't we make the mod for the game moddable?
So that is so cool.
Their own mods
oh my god. Is that supposed to be Attack on Titan?
Ted seems uniquely positioned to start this project. Not only is he a massive fan of the original games, but
I love
remarkably his day job is
This is how you used to do MySpace in the day, kids. This is how you set up your profile.
Software engineer is focused on getting COBOL programs to run on modern machines.
Oh my god,
He's eager not to take all the credit for this work though, as like any successful open source project, OpenRCT2 has benefited from a passionate community of developers who have a deep love for the design of the game.
I love the way it looks though. It's so unique.
Contributors now, different.
Like, okay, Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 is one of those games where like, you take one look at it, you know exactly what game it is. There's no other game that really has the same textures or like graphics, like you just know it just has that personality, you know?
100 different people have contributed to the source code.
Oh, that's so cool.
Ways. People translating the game to numerous different languages. We've got some people trying to create new art for the game. And some people are just there to test the game or do documentation.
Okay,
when we asked our community on Patreon
I'm going to be
why
doing
they
this.
voted for this game, we received a broad range of answers. Some said it was the management, others talked about coaster design or park layout.
Are they going to talk about the lawsuit?
Some it was a relaxing sandbox experience or just a shot of nostalgia. But Ted told me that in recent surveys they had noticed an influx of younger players into Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Of course!
Folks who weren't even born when it came out.
It's because it's that good of a game.
Why does he think people are still playing this game? what makes Roller Coaster Tycoon such a hit.
It's just good.
A lot of people, they haven't played it in a long time. They played it when they were younger, and they see the game again, they realise they can play it. But I think for a lot of other people, it's a toy. It's like Lego, and that you know, you can't get old of it. There's always different things, new things that you can think of building. It's not too complex. It's very uniform. You know, you're talking about isometric grid. Everything's tile or block based, a bit like Lego and Minecraft. You know, it's easy to place things exactly where you want.
What is the texture of that? Oh, just crashed. Okay, does anybody else remember laughing until you could not breathe after you accidentally crash a car full of people? I mean, like, I remember laughing until we fell on the ground, tears coming out of my eyes, because we thought we built it perfect, and you're watching and everything is so exciting, and then all of a sudden they just start free flying, and all you can hear is like screams of terror and explosions. There's just something magical about that.
Well, it's like in 1, it's all about the progression, you know, playing each part gets bigger and you research more new rides and you have to meet objectives. And then
that is so cool. I kind of want to text my mom and say like...
Whereas Roller Coaster Tycoon do is your sandbox mode where you create whatever.
I'm texting my mom right now.
One thing that stands out, and
I'm
you
going to
can
ask
get this from the game, is that, you know, Chris Sawyer is clearly obsessed with roller coasters and theme parks, and he knows, he's read a lot about them.
Whoa, that's spinning too.
In the game, the detail, the
I love
different types
so
of roller coasters.
Why are people still playing?
The different pieces that make
what happened after RC2? Here's the drama. Here's the tea. Okay. Chris Sawyer.
And on his own, he created.
Right, is that his name? Freaking champion.
The original Roller Coaster Tycoon games had a beautiful simplicity to them. At least the story.
I'm gonna text my brother too. Right? I'm gonna track this CD down.
Just loved roller coasters, and on his own, he created these rich and deep and beautiful, artistic even, games about designing roller coaster parks. Those first 2 games play and look pretty similar and have a lot of nostalgia with them.
How do I explain this to my mom in a way that... Because I don't want to say, hey, do you happen to have any of the old computer game discs lying around, like Roller Coaster Tycoon, Coaster Tycoon? Because here's the thing, if I say games lying around, immediately it's going to be too overwhelming. Like, I don't know anything about games.
Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, stuff started to get a little bit messy, a little bit more complicated. And not just in the games themselves, but also the politics that surrounded them.
Get ready.
The relationship between Atari and Frontier.
Okay, so this is the game I got. I got Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. That's what we're playing tonight.
A complex and largely private set of legal
I'm gonna stop talking for like 2 minutes.
And usage of the threefolds code and intellectual property. Between this and Atari's general financial woes, the franchise would disappear for the best part of a decade, and it's here that you can start to feel sorry for series fans. Roller Coaster Tycoon did eventually return in 2012,
messing it up.
Confusingly titled Roller Coaster Tycoon 3D, a 3DS exclusive which used assets from Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, but with a more classic isometric-like perspective.
That's like
this knife was twisted further by 2014's Roller Coaster Tycoon 4 Mobile, a freemium phone game that was critically panned, in part due to its aggressive microtransactions.
Are they?
Rather confusingly, Roller Coaster Tycoon 4 Mobile was followed by Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 Mobile, a Frontier-developed mobile version of the game, which by and large was actually pretty decent, though obviously not the Roller Coaster Tycoon game that many fans of the series had been praying for.
I'm about ready to
play.
Following
along? This is where it gets a bit more confusing. 2016 saw the release of multiple RCT products and the return of Chris Sawyer, though perhaps not in the exact way fans of the series were praying for. Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic was a mobile release in the style of the original game, created by Chris Sawyer and a team that he'd worked on in an earlier mobile release for Transport Tycoon. It was generally well received.
Oh, so they take his IP.
The second RCT game that year was Roller Coaster Tycoon World, a new 3D entry that bounced from studio to studio and enjoyed a tumultuous early access stint before it was officially launched one day before Frontier's new roller coaster game, Planet Coaster. Planet Coaster reviewed well, while Roller Coaster Tycoon World was about as bad a nightmare fans of the series could have possibly imagined. Buggy, unfinished, and not very fun. It was critically panned. A mobile port of World quickly followed under the title Roller Coaster Tycoon Touch, followed then by Roller Coaster...
Uh-oh.
Here with Sebastian, and it was great to see like how these roller coasters work.
Oh, they're talking about Parkitect! They're talking about Parkitect. I just heard of this game. A streamer that I recently discovered has been playing this game.
Next to Europa Park, which is one of the largest theme parks.
I'm curious about that game,
so,
actually.
I always was kind of interested in how a park like that operates and all the technology that goes into the rides.
I took some pictures when I was out there with Sebastian, and it was great to see like how these roller coasters work up close.
My name is Sebastian, and I'm the lead programmer for Parkitect.
My name is Garrett.
Oh, cool.
I am the, I guess, art director.
Oh, hi, my face in the way.
Designer of Parkitect. Parkitect is a theme park building game in the line of the classic theme park building games, such as Theme Park Roller Coaster Tycoon, with more of an emphasis on management specific to like decorations.
Ooh, I like decorations.
In a theme park. There's still
dinosaur.
all of the building and customization, but we wanted to get a little bit more into the behind the scenes of a theme park when it comes to what people want to see and how the back end is managed. So in the game, you're not just building the park of your dreams, you're also having to manage the backstage and everything that goes on there.
The focus is not just on guests that visit the park, but also
will
on
it be
the
too
employees
much?
that run the park. So you have stuff like staff buildings and training rooms.
Look up OpenTTD on Steam. Free city sim game.
Guests don't enjoy seeing these parts of the park, so you have to build
What's TTD?
and stuff to hide the behind the scenes parts of the park.
Parkitect seems to have succeeded where so many theme park games have failed.
I need a quieter keyboard, that's for sure.
But adding depth where it matters. While Parkitect may boast a cute and cartoonish aesthetic, under the hood there's a lot of simulation work going on here. For instance, each visitor's line of sight is calculated.
The early transportation one.
Of the park is positively or negatively impacted based on how much of the backstage park maintenance stuff they can see. An innovative idea which actually incentivizes players to add flair and scenery to their parks.
A lot of game companies are very into the idea of innovation, especially when it comes to market value and things like that.
Okay, let's speed this up.
And it's very hard to innovate this kind of game, not only for technical reasons, but also just gameplay reasons. Yeah, there's kind of been a renaissance in sim games, and we kind of got really lucky that we kind of were at the beginning of that wave. And it's been really interesting to see all these different takes on 100 different aspects of the genre. Like the town builders, you got theme park builders, you got city builders. You know, there's some interesting ones out there like that one where you build a town on the back of a walking creature. Like all these cool, innovative takes on it that I think is just really cool and does push traffic across the genre.
What is that?
People who want more of those experiences, I think.
Do you think there's a difference between the way in which people play a game like Parkitect and a game like Planet Coaster? Right, because thematically they're very similar, but in terms of the gameplay experience, they're
Wandering Village.
Yeah, what we hear from players very often is that they enjoy both games for different reasons, and that's really cool. That two games that are kind of similar can coexist. So for Parkitect, what people are looking for usually is the management part, I would say, and for Planet Coaster, the options for building that you have in that game are just amazing. And it looks really good.
What I heard is that some people prefer Roller Coaster Tycoon because it might have like more customizations as far as what the ride does, I guess, and where it goes. But that's about all I've heard about that.
Yeah, I've seen some truly amazing dioramas from Planet Coaster, just in pure 3D space and realism.
Oh no!
Say, like, it's community that drives these games, right? For us, community was like the #1 thing. We always knew from the beginning that we had to build a relationship with.
hobbyists who ensured that old fans and new could continue to play this classic, and new innovators who, spurred on by a similar indie spirit and love of roller coasters, created their own vision for the genre. So eventually we did actually hear back from the people who represent Chris, and they reiterated what I had already come to understand from looking into this story.
Wait, that's Chris Sawyer?
He's retired from games and is generally a pretty private person, but that he's flattered that people still take such an interest in the games he created.
That's so sweet.
In interviews, Chris Sawyer has mentioned how much focus and work
they
games
found
development took in his younger days, and how even more demanding the world of games creation has gotten since he left. But there's one answer from 2016's Eurogamer interview that really stood out to me. When asked how hands-off he's been with the series since 2002, Sawyer said, "I think you have to understand that my personal vision for Roller Coaster Tycoon was fulfilled with the last version I created myself, Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, and I had no interest in working on someone else's vision for future versions of the game. Much better to let those who do have the inspiration fulfill their own vision of the next iteration of the game, and not to interfere. Roller Coaster..."
Okay, most wholesome dev that exists ever. Chris Sawyer, everybody, shout out. How amazing. And just honest and real.
Coaster Tycoon has moved on a long way since its early days. As
he's not a Zuckercorn. He's not Mark Zuckercorn.
And while I'm intrigued to see how the newer games evolve and expand, I'm not the right person to guide or restrict the design and development of games so different to my own. Perhaps Radio Silence is Chris's gift to this new generation of devs. While many lament his lack of activity, he's also not stood in anyone's way. When I started this episode, I wanted more than anything to talk to Chris, to ask him what this series means to him. But in trying to find the answers for myself, I stumbled upon far more interesting stories. This video isn't about him, it's a video for him, a celebration of the legacy he left behind, and a worldwide community of players who are still gleefully creating roller coasters 20 years later.
It's really cool how supportive the community for these types of games is. I mean, if you look at Roller Coaster Tycoon, the game is like 16 years old, 17 years old by this point, and it still has an active community.
Oh, that's so
I like
cool.
teaching people stuff.
Oh.
Or showing off cool stuff. And it's just so satisfying to see people, you know, leave nice comments, and, you know, also just to watch those numbers go up. I'm a big numbers guy.
Oh my god.
What's probably, you know, most fascinating is that he's made effectively 3 games. Transport Tycoon, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Chris Sawyer's Locomotion, and all 3 of them have now got open source projects replicating it. How many game studios, you know, can admit that?
Yeah, it's amazing. Drop the mic and walk away, Chris Sawyer.
Shout out Chris Sawyer. I think he has become my favorite developer.